The 20th century bore witness to humanity's capacity for both great good and profound evil. Among the darkest chapters of this era stands the Holocaust, a systematic state-sponsored genocide that resulted in the murder of 6 million Jews. This attempt to exterminate an entire people, driven by an ideology rooted in hatred and prejudice. The Holocaust was a period of unimaginable cruelty and suffering. It is a history that demands to be remembered. To understand the rise of the Nazi regime, we must first look back at Germany after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles placed harsh reparations on Germany, crippling its economy. Hyperinflation and unemployment soared, breeding resentment. Economic despair and political instability sowed the seeds of extremism. The Nazi Party, promising national revival, found a receptive audience.
Led by Adolf Hitler, they exploited anxieties and prejudices. Propaganda spread their message of hate, blaming minorities for Germany's woes.
With the Nazi Party's rise to power in 1933, Germany began its descent into darkness. Anti-Semitism, once a fringe ideology, became official state policy. The Nazis enacted a series of increasingly discriminatory laws that stripped Jews of their rights and citizenship. The Nuremberg Laws, passed in 1935, defined Jews not by their religion but by their ancestry, effectively rendering them second-class citizens. They were prohibited from marrying or having relationships with Germans, attending schools or universities, and were systematically excluded from public life.
The persecution of Jews escalated gradually but relentlessly. Jewish businesses were boycotted, vandalized, and often confiscated. Jewish books were burned. Synagogues were desecrated and Jewish cemeteries were vandalized. The Nazi propaganda machine worked tirelessly to demonize Jews, portraying them as enemies of the state, parasites, and threats to German purity. This relentless campaign of hate and fear-mongering created a climate of intolerance and violence that paved the way for the horrors to come.
The night of November 9th to 10th, 1938, marked a turning point in the Nazi persecution of Jews. Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, saw a wave of anti-Jewish violence sweep across Germany and Austria. Nazi paramilitary forces and enraged mobs attacked Jewish homes, businesses, and synagogues, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Windows were smashed, buildings were looted and burned, and countless Jewish men were arrested and sent to concentration camps.
Kristallnacht represented a significant escalation in the Nazis' persecution of Jews. It was a pogrom, a state-sanctioned outburst of mob violence, and it shattered any illusions that Jews might be safe within the Third Reich. The shattered glass that littered the streets the next morning gave the night its chilling name and served as a chilling metaphor for the shattered lives of German Jews. Kristallnacht was a prelude to the Holocaust, a terrifying glimpse into the depths of hatred and violence that were to come.
Section 5. Ghettos, walls of confinement, prisons of despair. As the Nazi grip tightened, Jews were forcibly relocated from their homes and herded into overcrowded ghettos.
These walled-off sections of cities, often characterized by squalor, hunger, and disease, became prisons of despair for hundreds of thousands of Jews.
Ghettos were designed to isolate Jews from the rest of society, to humiliate them, and to exploit their labor. They were often overcrowded, lacking basic sanitation and medical care, and food was scarce.
Life in the ghettos was a daily struggle for survival. Hunger, disease, and fear were constant companions. Yet amidst the deprivation and despair, acts of resilience and humanity shone through.
People shared what little food they had. Clandestine schools were organized to educate children, and cultural events provided moments of solace and hope. The ghettos were not just places of suffering, they were also testament to the strength and spirit of the human will to survive in the face of unimaginable adversity. The camps represented the ultimate expression of Nazi ideology, the systematic dehumanization and extermination of an entire people. Those who survived the journey arrived at the camps weak, terrified, and dehumanized. Upon arrival, they were stripped of their possessions. Their hair was shaved, and they were tattooed with numbers, stripped of their identities, and reduced to mere statistics. These camps, designed for mass murder, were unlike anything the world had ever seen. The journey to the camps was often as horrific as the destination itself. Crammed into overcrowded cattle cars, deprived of food, water, and sanitation, many died en route. The final solution to the Jewish question, as it was chillingly termed, aimed for the complete annihilation of European Jewry. Jews were rounded up from ghettos across Nazi-occupied Europe and deported in cattle cars to concentration camps, primarily in Poland. Section 6, the final solution, deported to the abyss. With the invasion of Poland in 1939, the Nazis' genocidal campaign entered a new and even more horrific phase. Auschwitz became a factory of death, a chilling testament to the depths of human cruelty and the devastating consequences of unchecked hatred. Zyklon B, a cyanide-based pesticide, was poured through vents, killing those inside within minutes. The bodies were then transported to crematoria, where they were burned, turning the air thick with the stench of burning flesh. Those deemed unfit, primarily the elderly, the sick, and young children, were sent directly to the gas chambers. The gas chambers at Auschwitz were disguised as showers, designed to deceive victims until the very end. It was a vast complex comprising concentration, labor, and extermination camps. Upon arrival, prisoners were subjected to a selection process. Those deemed fit for labor were sent to work in factories or mines, often worked to death. Section 7, Auschwitz, a factory of death, a testament to cruelty. Among the most notorious of these extermination camps was Auschwitz-Birkenau. Located in occupied Poland, Auschwitz became synonymous with the horrors of the Holocaust. Section 8, Liberation and its aftermath. Scars that never truly fade. As the Allied forces advanced across Europe in 1944 and 1945, they began to liberate the concentration camps. The scenes they encountered were beyond comprehension.
Emaciated survivors, barely clinging to life, stumbled out of the camps, forever scarred by the horrors they had endured. The world was shocked by the scale of the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime.
The liberation of the camps marked the end of the Holocaust, but the suffering of the survivors was far from over. Many survivors emerged from the camps physically and emotionally broken, haunted by the trauma they had witnessed and endured.
They faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives, often having lost their families, their homes, and their sense of belonging. The psychological scars of the Holocaust ran deep, leaving an indelible mark on generations.
The liberation of the camps marked the end of the Holocaust, but the journey of healing and remembrance continues to this day. Section 9. Remembering to honor, educating to prevent. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, the world vowed never again. Memorials and museums have been erected around the world to honor the memory of the 6 million Jews who perished at the hands of the Nazis.
These sites serve as solemn reminders of the consequences of hatred, prejudice, and indifference. They stand as powerful symbols of our collective responsibility to never forget the victims and to fight against all forms of intolerance.
Education plays a vital role in ensuring that the lessons of the Holocaust are never forgotten. By teaching future generations about the historical context, the events, and the consequences of this genocide, we can help to prevent such atrocities from ever happening again.
It is essential to remember that the Holocaust was not a sudden eruption of barbarity, but a gradual process of dehumanization and escalating violence that was allowed to take root and grow.
Section 10. Lest we forget, the importance of remembrance. The Holocaust stands as a stark warning from history. It reminds us of the fragility of civilization and the ever-present danger of unchecked hatred and prejudice.
Remembering the Holocaust is not just about honoring the past, it is about safeguarding the future. By keeping the memory of the victims alive, we honor their suffering and reaffirm our commitment to building a more just and compassionate world.
The responsibility to remember and to learn from the Holocaust falls on us all. We must be vigilant in challenging intolerance and discrimination wherever we encounter it.
We must speak out against hate speech, bigotry, and all forms of injustice. We must remember that silence in the face of evil is complicity. By remembering the past, we can work towards a future where such horrors are never repeated.
Section 11. A legacy of resilience. The human spirit endures. Despite the unimaginable horrors they faced, many Holocaust survivors emerged from the depths of despair with an unwavering spirit. They rebuilt their lives, raised families, and contributed to their communities, demonstrating the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity.
Their stories of survival, courage, and hope serve as a testament to the power of the human will to endure. The legacy of the Holocaust is a complex one. It is a story of immense loss, unimaginable cruelty, and profound sadness.
But it is also a story of courage, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. By remembering the victims, honoring the survivors, and learning from the past, we can work towards a future where such horrors are relegated to the history books, never to be repeated.